only KBLA.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money P. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DePrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DePrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA, it's Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. The show is called First Things First. My first thing every single day, no matter what, giving thanks, giving praises, asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors, the elders, and let's go. Let's do this. It is still Gemini season. It is still a great time to move forward, to celebrate, to honor yourself, no matter what the obstacles. And it was certainly my joy and my pleasure to be part of honoring Tupac Shakur. Interestingly enough, on Prince's birthday, out there on Hollywood Boulevard, as he got his star on the Walk of Fame. We will talk a lot more about that tomorrow. We've got a show coming up for you on. It's part of what I didn't think was going to be a series, but now is turning into a series on the origins of West Coast hip-hop. Everyone has a different theory, I'm finding out. Start dates change, the players change, and I'm interested in all of that. I hope you are too. So we'll do some of that tomorrow. The poetess will be joining us. Alonzo Williams will be back with us, and maybe some surprise guests. And so we'll talk more about that. But you know, I will say this, the crowd was amazing. Amazing. I haven't been to a lot of those, but I have been to a few for some big stars, and they didn't even come close to the crowd that Tupac Shakur drew to Hollywood Boulevard, 25 years after his death, Miles? That really meant a lot to me, and I think it meant a lot to his family. And they were there, they were loud. They were not Hollywooding. They were hollering and yelling and really vocal in their support of Tupac and their love of Tupac. It is also Black Music Month. You know how we do. Hour one, we look to the local, and we have a very special guest today. Hour two, we will take your phone calls. We go national, international, beyond. V. Shane Frederick will check in with some Black Music Month musical convo. And then in hour three, we are going to talk about Black journalists and the trauma of constantly covering Black death with journalist James Farr of the LA Progressive, and also the Conversation Live. So we got a lot going on. I'm glad you could be here for it. Joining us first hour to look at some important local issues is the Assistant General Manager of the Regulatory Code and Compliance Bureau for the Los Angeles Housing Department, which, is responsible for the management of citywide operations for rent stabilization, code enforcement, and compliance divisions. The Rent Stabilization Division, you probably can figure out, enforces the RSO, which is the Rent Stabilization Ordinance of Los Angeles. And they try to balance the interests of landlords and tenants by regulating the registration of rental units, allowable rent increases, evictions, and more, of course. These are constant topics. Before she was in this role, she served as the city's director of rent stabilization since 2011. Anna Ortega, welcome to KBLA.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. That is a huge portfolio. Um, and in a city where housing is not just it's not just or an ordinary conversation. It can be at times a life and death conversation. Um, so let's start with really the basics. I mean, here we are emerging or trying to emerge from the pandemic, and we have new leadership at the helm of the city with Mayor Karen Bass. Um, what's different now with your department? What's different now that folks might find encouraging as we seem to be staring down a possible wave of evictions?
Well, the city has adopted a number of very strong protections. I would say that the city of Los Angeles enjoys some of the strongest renters protections in the nation. We've had this in place during the pandemic, as well as a number of rental assistance programs that were offered. But yes, as you mentioned, now that we're starting to transition out of that, city leaders took steps to adopt new rules that would stay in place as the old COVID tenant protections were lifted. So, yes, we do have a new mayor who's declared a homelessness emergency. She did that on her first day in office, and an emphasis on keeping people safely housed in their current rental units. The city also passed the United to House LA measure, and we're really excited about the possibilities of expanding programs designed to keep renters housed and also to expand the stock of rental housing. So there's a lot going on right now. On the front of tenant protection specifically, the city council adopted just cause eviction protections to help renters and citywide. So we've always had a rent stabilization ordinance, or at least we've had one since 1979, but now since this January of 2023, we now have a new law that provides eviction protections to all renters in the city. And so that's really, really important and an important safety measure that's now in place.
And that is important because what you would call rent stabilization or rent control, whatever you want to call it, does not apply to everybody in the city of Los Angeles.
That's right. Rent stabilization generally applied to rental units built before 1979. So there's a lot of years after that, 40-something years.
Yeah.
And so these new protections apply to all renters, including, I might add, renters in single-family dwellings. So that's also a new area. Before, most of the protections we had in place applied to renters in multifamily apartments.
Right. So if you were renting out a house, you weren't covered, but now you are, which is interesting for folks to take a note of. It seems like there's been a lot of changes, and so we'll get a chance to go over those because in some areas, I hear conflicting reports, and I want to make sure that we're 100% clear. And maybe that's because people don't understand that there's LA City, and then there's LA County, and then there's state, and they all have their own rules and protections or lack of protections.
You're so right, and that was particularly evident during the pandemic. We had federal rules, we had state rules, we had county rules, and we had city rules, and they were all trying to protect tenants, but they were all a little different. So it was confusing for even people working in the field, let alone the city's renters and landlords.
And so what we'll focus on today is people who actually are in the city of Los Angeles, because that's what your department covers. But there's lots and lots of us. And I think if you have any questions, you should give us a call, 800-920-1580. I find myself talking a lot about this because I feel like we do need to know more about our rights, how they've changed, and not just from the new renter protections, but also between what was allowable and what was happening during the coronavirus, the major coronavirus era, because I'm going to say we're not totally out of it. between then and now. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for people to keep their places, but there's also a lot of peril in assuming things have stayed the same. So I'm glad you could join us. Anna Ortega is our guest, and she is, she's the expert here. So take advantage. Of course, I have lots of questions as well. She's the Assistant General Manager of the Regulatory Code and Compliance Bureau for the Los Angeles Housing Department. And we're going to talk all about housing. It's a hot topic around here when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
The Heart of a Black Man, inspiring stories of triumph and resilience. Co-authored by 30 black men. Message of hope and empowerment. RSVP today at MalikBooks.com. Saturday, June 10th at 5 p.m. Westfield Culver City Mall. Come out and meet and greet 4 black men sharing their personal stories. Also, meet newly published co-author Malik Muhammad. Founder of Malik Books and book activist will be discussing and signing his chapter, From Devastation to Elevation. Saturday, June 10th at 5 p.m. RSVP today at MalikBooks.com. Westfield Culver City Mall. Come meet and greet co-authors Dr. Rael Sims, Cornell Ward, and Kendry Berry. Meet and greet book signing event, The Heart of a Black Man at MalikBooks.com.
If car designers can make cars look like anything, why are there so many boring cars? Why not a car that looks like an ancient sword? Or the future? The sky isn't even the limit at Nissan. Why be boring when you can make a katana blade slice through traffic? That's the Nissan Z. Or something from the future whizzing by. And that's the Aria. Nissan. We design for thrill. 2023 Aria has limited availability. See dealer for financing details.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, we're Tasha.
Teal and Euro from KBLA's Lyric Lounge.
Check us out every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Tune in as we break down some of your favorite song lyrics from all genres of music.
From gospel to pop and hip-hop to rock and everything else in between, we cover it all.
So come hang out in the Lyric Lounge with Tasha.
Teal
And Euro every Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. and every Sunday at 6 p.m.
Let the music play.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Want to know the best part?
It was free?
Nope.
The fact that it's on America's largest 5G networks?
Nope. It's the ding.
Oh yeah, love the ding.
Right? It's all about the ding. It's the dingarooski, the dingarone, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Unleash your power to save with Boost. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone when you switch. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power.
And the ding.
Limited time offer. New customers only. Available on select networks. 5G not available everywhere. One device per line. Tax excluded. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominic DePrima right now.
Also, getting back to Anna Ortega, who is with the Los Angeles Housing Department, Assistant General Manager of the Regulatory Code and Compliance Bureau. Man, your business card is crowded, Anna Ortega. That is a very long title, but you got a lot in your portfolio. So let's talk about the difference between where we were in 2020, 2020, when some of these protections kicked in, i.e. you couldn't be evicted, theoretically. I know some people still were, but most people couldn't be evicted, and people were paying what they were able. Some weren't paying at all. They stacked up quite some debt. And now you have to pay, right? I mean, all of those protections are of that era are gone.
Well, the protections about not being evicted because you couldn't pay your full rent that's ended. Tenants in the city need to have been paying their full rent beginning February 1st of 2023. But there are new protections. So, as I mentioned earlier, the city adopted a just cause evictions protections ordinance that applies to all rental units. So that means that a landlord has to have a legal reason to evict a renter. So there are several reasons. Some tenant at fault, like not paying your rent, and some tenants no fault reasons. But tenants evicted for a no fault reason, like the owner wants to move into the rental unit, those tenants are entitled to relocation assistance, and that ranges from $8,850 to $22,950, and that's to help them relocate. Also, under a new ordinance, tenants who fall behind on their rent can now not be evicted unless their rental arrears exceed 1 month's fair market rent. So for a two-bedroom unit, that rent level is $2,222. So that gives tenants a little breathing space if they do, run into financial setbacks and they can't pay their full rent. They can now no longer be evicted for smaller amounts.
Right, if you're behind a couple $100 or maybe if you've been in a unit for a long time and you're behind a month, but the fair market value is more than 1 month, you still can't be evicted for that month. Like, say you're paying $1,000 for that $2,200 apartment, which would certainly give some owners an incentive to try to get you out of there. You would have to fall behind what the apartment is worth on the market today as opposed to what it might have been when you first rented it.
That's right. Also, if a landlord wants to impose a rent increase higher than 10%, this is for non-rent stabilized unit, and the renter can't afford that rent increase that's higher than 10%, and therefore the tenant needs to relocate. Under a new city law, the tenant can request relocation assistance. So that's an important new protection. And then we were talking about the rules that have fallen away that were in place during the pandemic, but there's still rules about the rental debt that tenants might have accrued, and tenants still have some time to pay back the rental arrears. So tenants who owe back rent from before September 30th, 2021, so that pandemic debt we're talking about, they have until August 1st, 2023 to make up that back rent. And then there's another period of time, tenants who owe back rent accumulated from October 1st, 2021 through January 31st, 2023. Those tenants have until February 1st, 2024 to make up those rental arrears. So the city adopted rules to give tenants some breathing space, some time to make up the rental arrears that they may have owed from that pandemic period. Finally, tenants in rent stabilized units landlords are not allowed to impose any annual rent increase until February 1st, 2024. So any rent increases for rent stabilized units are currently paused. Again, that's to help stabilize our renters in the city as they come out of the economic impact of the pandemic on their household finances.
Right. So I want to circle back through some of these things you've said. And we have other stuff to touch on too, but I just want to make sure that, there's some clarity and make sure I understand what you're saying. So when you talk about just cause, the new eviction protections renter protections is really more accurate, that were passed by the LA City Council, you said there's different rules for fault and no fault. So no fault would be the landlord wants to move in. They're going to, I don't know what else it falls under that. No fault means you didn't pay your rent or you were supposedly a nuisance or some other list of things that are considered to be, eligible to get you evicted, right?
Exactly. And those are typically, you didn't pay your rent, you're violating the terms of your lease. Those are at-fault reasons. But landlords can legally recover a rental unit for other reasons, like some of the ones you mentioned, to move in themselves, to move in a family member, to move in a resident manager, because they plan to demolish the unit. But those are all legal reasons for eviction, but they're not reasons that the tenant has any responsibility for.
Right, so those are the folks who could actually get relocation assistance. But I'm imagining that's only if they know about it, because this is something you have to request, right? It's not automatic. Same with that. What you said, if the landlord increases the rent more than 10% and you can't afford it, so you have to move, then you can get that same relocation assistance, but only if you request it, right? So how do you do that?
Well, no, it's not if you request it. Landlords that are evicting for no-fault reasons are obligated to notify the housing department, and the housing department will notify the tenant that their landlord has filed and that they are entitled to relocation assistance. So,
I have a friend that that had this situation. The landlord said they wanted to move in to the unit, and there was no notification. I mean, the landlord wanted all of the back rent before the person moved out, or they threatened to not let them stay for the rest of the month. And there was no conversation about any rental assistance, moving assistance. So
yeah, that's unfortunate. That's why that's part of why we're reaching out to try to provide information to the public. So if renters have any doubts or any questions about any notice they get from their landlord, or just whether what their landlord is attempting is legal, they should certainly contact the LA Housing Department. We have a lot of information online on our webpage at housing.lacity.org. We also have a hotline at 866-557-7368. Where we have operators that can answer questions about what are renters' rights and guide them when they have a question about what any notice or notification they may have received from their landlord.
866-557-7368. That's the hotline?
Yes.
And the web address one more time.
It's housing.lacity.org.
Yeah, city always has really long websites too. So, so if that happened to you now, let's say you were not at fault, and you have to move. How do you determine how much the person is going to get, or if they're eligible? Like, is this just for certain low income folks, or who qualifies for that moving assistance?
It's complicated. It depends on whether you're subject to the Rent Stabilization Ordinance or to one of the new laws. If you're in newer housing under the Just Cause Ordinance, you are entitled to relocation assistance after the first 6 months. If you're in a rent stabilized unit, you're entitled to relocation assistance immediately. But the amounts depend on how long the tenant has lived there, whether they're low income, do they have minor dependent children in the unit, or someone who's a senior citizen, or someone who's disabled. So
it's a whole formula, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So staff would look at that and assist to determine what is the correct amount. But it's for all renters, not only low-income renters. It's your income is a factor in the amount of relocation, but everyone is entitled to relocation regardless of their income.
Wow, interesting. So, I mean, because getting into a unit here in LA is expensive, and you may or may not have that cash on hand, even if you're not low income, for a first and a last and whatever else they want. So that's interesting to note. Now, I have a lot of questions, but when you talk about, and we've got a minute and a half till news, traffic, sports, and we'll continue on the other side. But I think when you said now you have to pay, since February 1st, you have to be paying your full rent every month. The county had some kind of different thing going on, and then we were. This is one of those areas where federal, county, and state were confusing city. What's the bottom line here for LA renters?
For LA renters, our law sunsetted our tenant eviction protections for COVID. Sunsetted on January 31st of 2023. So in the city, renters should have resumed paying their full rent on February 1st. But the county did apply additional protections if tenants did certain things. So tenants who are low income at under 80% of the area median income and notified their landlord of their COVID debt, they had additional time until April 1st, 2023, to resume paying their full rent. So under the county rules, tenants had a little bit more time if they did certain things. At this point, under everybody's rules, tenants should be paying their full monthly rent.
Got it. Talking with Anna Ortega, Assistant General Manager of Regulatory Code and Compliance Bureau for the LA Housing Department. We've got news, traffic, and sports, and then more vital information on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
Good morning. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The House is still in an uproar after several conservatives blocked party line Republican measures. The blockade began Tuesday when 11 Republicans joined Democrats in voting against GOP bills and effectively blocked any Republican legislation from advancing to the floor. The move appeared to be in retaliation after House Speaker Kevin McCarthy worked with Democrats to suspend the debt ceiling. In Marion County, a Florida woman accused of shooting her neighbor to death following an apparent dispute is expected in court tomorrow morning. 58-year-old Susan Lorenz, who is white, was charged with manslaughter yesterday after she reportedly shot her black neighbor through the door of her apartment. She is claiming self-defense in the case. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Kickstart your imagination with Audible. Hear celebrity and music memoirs, mysteries, true crime, and more. Audible is the home of storytelling, audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Sign up for a free trial at audible.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Denver Nuggets made a strong statement last night in the NBA Finals. They told the Heat they will not have home court advantage in Miami. The Nuggets win Game 3 by 15 to take a 2-1 lead and frustrate a sellout crowd. A sparkling triple-double for Nikola Jokic, 32 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists. 34 for Jamal Murray. Game 4 is Friday night in Miami, 5:30 tip-off on ABC. Something is wrong with the Dodgers. They've lost 4 straight, and for the second night in a row, they lose to Cincinnati in the bottom of the ninth. Reds rookie right fielder Will Benson hit a 2-run homer to end it, his first career home run in the major leagues. Nice way to get number 1. The Dodgers are now in second place in the NL West, 2 games behind Arizona. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Everybody in the house, make some noise!
Is there a better day of the year to celebrate the anniversary of the only unapologetically progressive talk station west of the Mississippi, focused on issues that impact the black community?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
We think not. A station that amplifies black voices like yours with hosts and guests who look and sound like you. Celebrating our second anniversary on Juneteenth. We're KBLA Talk 1580. And you ain't seen nothing yet.
Hey LA, keep your utility bills low this summer while making your home the cool place to be. LADWP can help you save hundreds with air conditioner and thermostat rebates, plus free energy efficient home upgrades and simple tips to help you beat the heat and save money. Visit ladwp.com/cool-LA.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Attorney Joe Cordell. Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to three key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
1455 Frazee Road, Suite 1050, San Diego, California, 92108. CordellCordell.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, talking with Anna Ortega. She's general manager at the LA Housing Department. And this is a little bit off topic, but not really. One of the things that I've noticed, and I've been talking with a couple of my friends in South LA about this, is that I believe there are quite a few landlords that put a unit up for rent when they either already have someone or along the way they find someone, and it's like a scam where they get these application fees from people. And it really hurts my heart because I know that many folks are on the brink of houselessness, or they're trying to put their pennies together to get into a place. And I wonder if there's anything that can be done, speaking of, compliance, because that's got to be illegal, right?
Yeah, if the unit isn't available, yeah, it sounds like a scam. I would advise contacting the LA County Department of Consumer Affairs about that.
Okay. I mean, because I think this is one of many scams that are happening with people preying on folks who are already struggling. Back to our questions here about some of the information that you have laid out regarding the change from COVID, but also the new protections that the City Council has passed. It seems like knowing what your rights are and what they aren't could be the difference between you staying in a place and not staying in a place. How do we keep abreast of what our rights really are, and how does that help us just to know our rights?
Yeah, it's so important, especially right now when so much is changing. But again, we want to keep as many people safely housed. We want to help people stay in their familiar neighborhoods and communities. So it's really important that they know their rights. How to do that is, again, there's a lot of information on the LA Housing Department website. They can call us at our hotline number. We have offices at various locations throughout the city where they can get help in person. We offer monthly workshops on different topics and on the ongoing protections, and information about the workshops is available, again, on our website, or they can call our hotline and get information about that month's workshops. They're offered in English and Spanish, generally on Wednesday afternoons.
Housing.lacity.org or 866-557-7368. So let's talk about those eviction notices. If I get an eviction notice, what do I do? Because, like, for example, I have one friend, and I was confused because I think it was a 3-day notice or something like that, but they were told by legal aid that if they wouldn't have responded in 24 hours, they would have had a big problem. So how does that work when you get a notice of eviction?
So there's different notices that tenants may get, and they may not really know the difference.
Right.
If they get just a notice from their landlord, again, they should contact the housing department at 866-557-7368, or they can file a complaint online at our website. That's if they get a notice just from their landlord. If they get a court notice, which is called an unlawful detainer notice, they have to respond to that notice within 5 days. So your friend, it might have depended on which day, how many days it had already been. But 5 days isn't very much, so it's important that tenants get immediate assistance. Legal help is available through the Stay Housed LA program, and they have a website at stayhousedla.org, or by calling the Stay Housed LA program. That's a different number. That's 213-694-0040. But if tenants get an unlawful detainer court notice or anything about an eviction, there is no time to waste.
Okay, so if it's eviction, you want to call Stay House because you can possibly get some legal help on that, or go to stayhousedla.org. If it's from the landlord and it's not a court document, then they can call you guys at 866-557-7368, the LA Housing Department, or go to housing.lacity.org, file a complaint, figure out where they stand.
Yes, exactly. There's more time then, and we'll assign a housing investigator, and they'll get all of the details and information from the tenant. And many times, the housing department will contact the landlord and ask them to rescind that notice and explain what the law requires. That's assuming it's not in keeping with the law.
Right.
But we'll at least provide the information and look into what's going on with that particular renter.
Okay, so, to flip the script for a minute, I also have friends that are landlords, and some of them complain to me that they feel like certain tenants have taken advantage of the COVID eviction protections and won't pay their rent, or don't want to pay the back rent, or may move and they never recover that back rent. Now the landlord is struggling to cover their mortgage. What do you advise those folks?
Yeah, their landlords have been in a tough situation in the whole city, one way or another, right, during the pandemic. I would advise landlords that they also need to know their rights, and the workshops that the housing department offers and the information that we put out, we try to make it balanced and to also explain the legal reasons for eviction. There are 14 legal reasons for eviction. Again, some of them, as we mentioned earlier. Some of them are tenant at-fault reasons. So tenants can evict their tenants if they don't pay their rent, if they break their lease, if they're using their unit for an illegal purpose. There's a number of tenant at-fault reasons, and that has resumed as of February 1st. So I also think it's important for landlords to be informed about the law, and housing staff is here to provide information for both landlords and tenants.
Do they still have access? I was reading yesterday about a lawsuit that sued the state because they took 100 years to pay people when they applied for COVID rental assistance, and a huge number of people were rejected, something like 30%, and now the state has to reevaluate some of those. Is it, whether it's city, county, or whatever it might be, is there any help for those landlords that may never recover those dollars that accumulated, if the person just ends up leaving or getting evicted?
The tenant still owes it, and in some cases, landlords can pursue the rental debt in small claims court. Another program that's in place is through the Stay Housed LA program, which does offer rental assistance that's paid to the landlord if it's reached the point where the landlord is trying to evict their renter, but the legal aid representative can negotiate an agreement where back rent can be paid through the rental assistance program through the Stay Housed LA program. So that's intended to help negotiate and keep tenants in place that owe back rent, but that going forward, could continue to be good tenants and live in the rental unit. So that is offered through the Stay Housed LA program. In addition, earlier in the interview, I mentioned the United to House LA measure, which does have money set aside for rental assistance. The rental assistance money is paid to the landlord,
right, in
these programs if the landlord is willing to accept it. So the programs are still being worked out. It's early in the United to House LA implementation, but there is significant money that will be available for rental assistance through the United to House LA.
Now,
so there's measures cooking.
And is that COVID related, or it's just low income renters that are in danger of eviction?
It doesn't have to be COVID related anymore. It's the latter.
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk about, if there's some deadlines coming up that we need to focus on. And I want to, give you a chance to share some stuff that maybe I didn't know about, didn't get to. I think it's so important that we have these conversations. It's not too late to call. If you want to talk to Anna Ortega, she's assistant GM, LA Housing Department. You always ask me questions I don't have the answer to. Now I got someone who has the answers for you. And you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Tina Turner's hometown to build a statue in her honor. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. On May 24, news spread of the death of the queen of rock and roll, Tina Turner, who died at 83 years old. Turner's representatives say she died of natural causes after long illness. The mayor of Tina's hometown has since revealed plans to build a statue in honor of Turner. Bill Rawls Jr., mayor of Brownsville, reveals his hope to have the sculpture placed in Heritage Park near the high school Tina attended as a teenager. She was born in the same town in 1939. Rest in peace to the queen of rock and roll, Tina Turner. I'm Maisha Cairo for KBLA Talk 1580, and that's your K-Black Minute News.
Your health is important, so keep yourself and your family covered with Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal renewals will be happening soon. So if you have Medi-Cal, make sure you don't miss any important renewal information. If you've moved in the last 3 years, check and update your mailing address, email address, and phone number. Learn more at keepmedicalcoverage.org. That's keepmedicalcoverage.org. Paid for by the California Department of Healthcare Services.
The Los Angeles Public Library proudly presents the June Jubilee inaugural event commemorating Juneteenth. Join us on June 10th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Central Library as we celebrate the rich Black culture in our city. This free event will include a special opening celebration featuring African drums procession and a libation ceremony at 9 a.m. along with speakers, workshops, live entertainment, and more for the whole family. Parking is only $1 with a validation. Learn more at lapl.org/Jubilee. That is lapl.org/JUBILEE.
If you're a business owner or lead a nonprofit that's between 26 and 49 employees, please listen. Lendistry is proud to announce a new program whereby small businesses and nonprofits may qualify for reimbursement of COVID sick leave expenses incurred in 2021 or 2022. This program is administered by the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. Eligibility criteria apply and funding is limited. For more information, visit COVIDPaidSick.com. If you're a business owner or lead a nonprofit that has between 26 and 49 employees, please listen. Lendistry is proud to announce a new program whereby small businesses and nonprofits may qualify for reimbursement of COVID sick leave expenses incurred in 2021 or 2022. This program is administered by the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. For more information, visit COVIDPaidSick.com.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, Anna Ortega is with us this morning, Assistant GM of the LA Housing Department. Let's talk about what I may have missed. I want to make sure we get to that before we run out of time. Time flies when you're on the radio.
It does. Did you want me to talk about upcoming deadlines?
Yeah, let's do that. And anything else that I might not have covered that you find urgent.
All right. So, again, rental arrears from March 2020 through September 30th, 2021 are supposed to be paid by August 1st of 2023 in order to avoid eviction. So tenants really need to pay attention to that and work with their landlords. But then rental arrears from after that, from October 1st, 2021 through January 31st, 2023, that has to be paid by February 1st, 2024. So there's a little more time. And rent increases for rent-stabilized units continue to be paused until February 1st, 2024. If tenants get a rent increase, they should contact the housing department to see if that's legal for their unit.
And rent-stabilized means it was built since 1979. So if you're in an older unit, that's probably not going to apply to you. But what about when you say they should work it out with their landlord? What are your options? I mean, if we only have till August 1st, 2023 to pay stuff that was up until September of 21, what does that mean? You make a deal with them? Are they obligated to work with you? Like, what does that look like if you can't just pay a whole bunch of cash?
So that's where landlords and tenants have to work together to work out maybe a monthly payment plan. It's really important that they have open communication. But if tenants aren't able to make up the back rent, then they're at risk of eviction. If that happens, then they can contact the Stay Housed LA program for additional legal help, and possibly the legal aid attorneys can work out a negotiation with the landlord to pay the rental arrears through the rental assistance program.
StayHousedLA.org. If I have made a deal, an informal deal with my landlord, do I need to have that in writing? I mean, what if they change their mind and say, you know what, I decide I want you out of here, so, and you haven't paid back everything yet,
we advise that that landlords and tenants put everything in writing, including their initial lease.
Mm-hmm.
But these are situations where people need to work together.
Got it. And we're not yet at the point where tenants who are facing eviction have counsel in court, right? I mean, I know this has been a goal of the city, but it hasn't been funded.
Actually, it has,
Okay.
although it's not a universal right of every tenant, and it's limited by the funding available. But
Right.
yes, the Stay Housed LA program is it's actually a city-county collaborative program, but it is available to renters in the city right now. So again, tenants that are facing eviction can get help there. They can get information. They have workshops about how to respond to an eviction notice. They have a self-help tool online, but also in those most urgent cases for vulnerable renters, they do provide legal representation. So it depends. They really have to triage the cases that they get. So some renters will qualify for legal representation, and others will be given guidance on how to respond to the eviction notice from their landlord.
Interesting article in LA Times today talking about how, LA County has a huge number of renters and they're struggling to get by. And they say a terrible thing, which is maybe it'll get better because a lot of people are leaving California. I want to know, when we come forward, let's talk about what are we doing to increase, the number of housing units available. I don't want to have to wait until people leave. And it seems like what's being built is mostly for very, very, very rich people. I'll touch on that and just, check in and make sure you got this. So much valuable information. Talking with Anna Ortega, Assistant GM of the LA Housing Department on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Lowe's knows the best deals for Dad. That's why this Father's Day, you can shop our best gifts from the brands he loves, like Craftsman, for less. Right now, get a V20 drill or impact driver kit for just $69. And save $50 on a V20 string trimmer and blower combo kit, now only $99. Shop Father's Day deals today, in-store and online. Lowe's knows dads. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 6/14 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Big tobacco cigarette butts filter practically nothing and are made of microplastics that are toxic and cunning. More than 15,000 fibers lurk in every cigarette butt you see. Could they harm your families? Quite possibly. They could end up inside of you, your bodies, their prey. New studies even indicate possible links to mutations in DNA. An evil lie with the future's work of harm. To the world, now you know, so sound the alarm. Learn more at undo.org.
Before new Cascade Platinum Plus, I would pre-rinse all my dishes because my old detergent just wouldn't get them clean. But now, I do dishes differently. A no pre-wash, no rewash, money-back guaranteed kind of different. Because Cascade Platinum Plus has double the grease-fighting power of Dawn built right in, with twice the scrubbing power, giving me a clean that lets me break all the dish rules. I just scrape, load, and I'm done. Yep. So clean. With Cascade Platinum Plus, I dare to dish differently.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Man, just a little bit of time left, so I guess we'll get the short answer to a question that could take up a whole 3-hour show. What's being done to increase the amount of housing available?
Right. So the voters of the city approved Measure United to House LA last November. While it's still in litigation, the city is proceeding with planning for the implementation, and it provides hundreds of millions of dollars for preservation programs and for construction of new housing. So that could be a real game changer for the city of Los Angeles and the housing stock.
Yeah, we're gonna hope it makes it through the courts. Again, you've outlined quite a few of our rights, under the Just Cause eviction protections, United to House LA. What do you want to emphasize in this last minute here?
The last minute is to be informed, and this will allow you to stay safely at home in your neighborhood, get help, contact the housing department. We're here to help. Again, at our hotline at 866-557-7368, or there's a wealth of information online under our Renters Protection page at housing.lacity.org. That's great, Steph. And, of course, the stayhousedla.org if you're facing eviction, and that number, 213-694-0040. Anna Ortega, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It is a great time to call me, 800-920-1580. We are KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Good morning. I'm Mike Moore here. Republicans joined Democrats in voting against GOP bills and effectively blocked any Republican